In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how to hack the vagus nerve. We talked a little bit about it through some of the other lessons, and more in depth in the first part of hacking your nervous system, the head-heart connection. We'll also have a really great handout that you can look at in our resource section that will talk about the science of safety and the polyvagal theory. So I won't go into a lot more detail here, except to give a brief overview again of what the vagus nerve is and why we want to hack it. The vagus nerve has become one of the most hottest piece of research in the field of anatomy and attachment and stress, because the vagus nerve is responsible for the balance between our sympathetic and our parasympathetic system. As I mentioned in the head-heart connection, the vagus nerve is responsible in large part for the connection between the head and the heart to bring a balance in the sympathetic, which is the gas of our nervous system, and the parasympathetic, which is the brake of our nervous system. Now, in the science of the polyvagal science, it will talk a little bit about how this is really called the rest and digest. Now, that's significant for us here because the rest and digest is a key component of our nervous system, given that many of our nerves are not that are responsible for intelligence, for information gathering, for deciphering safety, for managing mood and emotion. It doesn't reside in our head, it resides in our gut and in our internal organs. It's a very significant part that brings information to the table. So what we want to do is we want to hack the vagus nerve so that we can increase neuroresilience, i.e. a strong vagal tone, i.e. a very dominant and trustworthy parasympathetic system. You don't want to be driving a car where you have no brakes. It's not going to be a good situation. So here are some ways that you can help your vagus nerve be strong or have a strong tone. So the first thing is the simplest, and that's just breathing. We talked about this before. We'll be talking about it again because breath is important and vital to our body and to our brain. Now, there's many different ways to do breathing exercises. There's a lot of different methods out there. All of them are good. In the head-heart connection, we talked about simply breathing in and out to the count of 10. Inhale being on the odd numbers and exhale being on the even numbers. That's a fine way to do it. You can mix and match it up with whatever works well for you. Right now, I'm going to teach you what is called 4-square breathing. Now, 4-square breathing is defined because it has 4 elements, like 4 sides of a square, where we are going to breathe in for a 4-second count. Then we're going to hold that breath in for a 4-second count. Then we're going to exhale for a 4-second count, hold that exhale for 4 seconds, and then repeat. So it's a lot like a square. So we have inhale, hold, exhale, hold, and then we do it over and over again. So I'm going to do this with you, just give you one example of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my hand up when we're inhaling and then hold my hand out when we're holding, and then I'm going to decrease my hand when we're exhaling and then holding it once again, just so you get the visual as well as me using the 4 count. So here we go. We're going to breathe in for 4. So if you do that a number of times in succession, what you will find is that you begin to have a slower heart rate, your digestion, you won't feel this, but your digestion will improve, and you'll feel just an overall sense of ease or calmness, which is exactly what we want to do in this section for neuroresilience. We want to promote sense of safety. Now, again, you can use breathing work with a lot of other different functions. A lot of people recommend meditation. We're going to talk about meditation and mindfulness throughout this series as well. And there are a lot of different ways based on a lot of people's different faith backgrounds, a lot of different lifestyles and philosophy. You can use any and all of those different forms of meditation along with your breathing, because breathing is really essential to having good meditation, and meditation is going to be crucial to be a part of your breathing. So it goes hand in hand with each other. So meditation can be a helpful tool or trick. Also, because the vagus nerve has a lot to do with our throat and our mouth and our swallowing, again, it's that rest digest that we'll talk about in the polyvagal theory article. But that rest and digest is crucial because then the nerve endings are around our mouth and our swallowing reflex. So breathing obviously is a big part of that. Another form of that breathing exercise, which will really accentuate your voice and your mouth, is to do what's called balloon breathing. So it's a lot like you're blowing up a balloon. So you would purse your lips when you're exhaling out air, and then again letting them in as if the balloon was sucking in air from the balloon. So it'd be like. So I hope you could hear that. So that's the kind of the idea that you want to use when you're doing balloon breathing, and incorporates voice. Other elements of using your voice or your mouth would be to sing or to hum or laughter. Again, this incorporates many other systems within the body, and we talk about laughter specifically when we talk about the rethink section, because one of our tools there will be to use laughter to laugh out our anxiety, which is a trick that helps us with social anxiety. It's very powerful, but it also releases a lot of pleasurable hormones throughout the body that will produce dopamine and just a sense of reward and positivity. So it has another benefit beyond that. Singing and humming incorporate the tongue and the plate in the mouth, incorporate your voice. There's again that sound that comes out that will stimulate the vagus nerve. And in addition to that, there's prosody of voice. The prosody of voice basically means it's a sing-song sense of voice. Now this is something that's come out again through the polyvagal theory and attachment research that demonstrates that prosody of voice is very important in the relationship between an infant and their parent. In this situation, we'll talk about an infant and their mother. So when a mother talks to their baby, they use prosody of voice. So they'll talk in a sing-song voice saying, "Oh, aren't you so cute? Look at your little toes. Oh, you're smiling. Yes, Mama loves you." And so we use this sort of natural voice tone that we seem to only do with babies and animals. I don't know why we do it just those two, but that is very common to all cultures. So it's universal. And research from the attachment field demonstrates that children who hear this, who are very much in their right hemisphere of their brain, which registers vocal tone, and because their words are not developed, which is a left brain function, that will then be a way for them to begin to learn how to communicate. It's pre-verbal approach to language. It's also the way that the infant and the mother will communicate with one another. It also, because it's responding in the right hemisphere of the brain, which is very closely connected to our limbic or emotional centers of our brain, will produce a sense of peacefulness and calmness, which affects our vagal tone, which affects our parasympathetic system, etc. Now, infants who have been studied that have good digestion, have good gastric motility, who seem to be developing well, have a very strong vagal tone. And just the opposite is true. Infants that have a very weak vagal tone will have trouble in all these areas. They won't nurse as well, they won't communicate as well, they'll have trouble interacting with the parents, which this brings out that polyvagal idea of social engagement, because again, part of the nerves are in the face as well as the ears, so what we hear and how we express our feelings and how we register other people's feelings, all is wrapped up one with another. So another way that incorporates creating strong vagal tone is just drinking water, swallowing reflex. So the more when we're swallowing, that reflex of drinking in the water has both the beneficial effects of the water itself, but also increases vagal tone. Obviously, a good way to have strong vagal tone is just to have a good, strong, healthy life. So if you exercise, if you have good sleep, if you have good nutrition, all these things greatly impact your vagal tone and create neural resilience. Additionally, I'm not a doctor, but we have a really helpful article on how to have a healthy gut, happy gut, or how to have happy feelings along with a healthy gut. And if you read through the article, you'll see that having just good nutrition as well as the use of probiotics that create good flora within the gut where the vagal nerves surround, as well as many other nerves surround, that will create a very strong neural resilience as well. So very useful help with that. In regards to the social engagement system, one of the ways that we can hack our nervous system with hacking the vagal nerve, is to have close, intimate, positive relationships. This is really important for a connection because there is evidence to suggest that the vagus nerve also affects the release or secretion of oxytocin. Oxytocin is a bonding hormone. It's the hormone that brings pleasure, but it usually comes up only in connection with other humans. So the mother and the baby, when they're in close connection, there is swallowing from the breast milk, there is interaction with the prosody of voice, there is facial recognition that's going on between the baby and the child, eye-to-eye contact, and oxytocin is released in the warmth and closeness and the presence of this positive caregiver. And that helps with development, helps with brain growth, helps with emotional regulation, it helps with just a host of different things that even impact the baby's ability to digest that milk, and creates a sense of attachment and love that fosters between the mother and the child. So having strong relationships, having good friendships, that's very important. And you can see how anxiety, with particularly social anxiety, can get in the way of what is really the thing we need to do the most. We often try to avoid the thing that creates pain or distress or feels like danger or feels threatening, humiliation in this case for social anxiety, but actually that connection is what really is going to create a very strong neural resilient system so that we are anxiety proof. Cold shower or even cold water on the face creates a startle reflex. Sometimes even taking ice cubes and putting them on the face can help with creating this blood circulation and startle reflex, which will tend to stimulate that parasympathetic system. Now, one would think that what it's doing is starting the sympathetic nervous system, but the coldness is more related to the parasympathetic, so it creates a parasympathetic response. So I hope these ideas help you as you are learning to build a strong anxiety-proof nervous system, i.e. a sense of neural resiliency.